Alright, Shalom. It's your brother Quashab coming back at you with another quick lesson. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, and glory, and infinite honors unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rechagodash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me the truth and rule well. And peace, blessings, and salutations be to the hopefully elect, as well as those that believe in the gospel and may you endure to the end, Lord willing. Alright, and I'm going to get into a quick lesson today. I was watching the brother, GMS dedication. He drops these collaborative videos all over the course of one. All right, and this one's titled 2026, the last year of normalcy. All right, now this, of course she's bugged out, but this Eve was making hell a lot of sense on knowing what's going on. All right, and how basically the war between the U.S. and Iran, all right, is all calculated moves by both sides, right? Now, if you watch this whole video, it's a lot of things that adds up to it, but, I'll just let this small portion, what she was talking about play, and I'll get a few precepts and Lord willing to be edifying, all right?
Classes in session, we're going to break down this power move that Iran has implemented recently. The power play in question, Iran's decision to end a 52-year-long agreement that was literally the last standing pillar in upholding the financial empire to the United States. Yeah, they have now decided that any oil that is passing through the Strait of Hormuz will not be done with the transaction or with the use of the US dollar. It will now be done with the Chinese yuan. Iran basically said, you want oil, you're going to pay in yuan. No ifs, ands, or buts, no conversation. Now, this is the part where I educate United States citizens about a deal that actually went down in United States history that they don't teach us about. Much like most of the United...
And real quick, before she get into it, that whole situation with the U.S., all right, with people paying with the yuan, for anybody who wishes ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, has to pay in yuan, that's definitely a power move, all right? Because now you have these nations that have what you call treasury bonds, all right, that, some nations hold hundreds of billions of, U.S. treasury bonds, all right, which is, basically money, all right. And as that money is constantly being deflated, and if it's not being used on a global scale to conduct commercial business, all right, that ultimately, basically will lead to them just having money for nothing, all right. And which, that's the whole plan of the elites, all right, since they knocked off JFK, all right, for trying to issue the gold standard of the dollar, all right. It's not backed by anything, all right. So it's been very neatly intricate or incorporated in each nation's money, all right. And that's how these nations keep themselves afloat. That's how they get richer, all right. That's how they actually make money, by trading in the U.S. dollar, right? Because it is of the highest value, right? Now, when things like this happen, it causes the money to actually lose its value, man. So that's what we are seeing, right? That's why you're seeing the gas prices go up. People asking, oh, well, they just took all the oil from Colombia. Well, why is the gas prices still going up? Why? Because they're actually not accepting, the U.S. money. So that's going to make inflation go up. That's going to make the price of groceries go up, So you got to really get into it to understand, what's going on here,
States history, any power that the United States government has, it was not earned. Okay, they didn't work for it, right? They either stole it from somebody else, lied where it came from, or they negotiated their way into having this power. This is kind of the case with this 52-year agreement that is now ended. The United States dollar power was never earned. Okay, the United States government never earned it. They never worked for it. They negotiated it. And this happened back in 1971. See, back in 1971, President Nixon printed more dollar bills than the United States gold reserve could actually back up. He did this to be able to fund the Vietnam War. Then he abolished the gold standard entirely. He just got rid of it entirely, forcing the United States to now rely solely on the US dollar. But there wasn't shit backing it up, right? So now he had to make a trip. President Nixon had to make a little trip. In 1974, President Nixon took that trip to Saudi Arabia, where he was able to meet with King Faisal, I believe that's his name, and he did so in order to propose a deal, an offer. The offer? Sell oil that is passing through the Strait of Hormuz using only the United States dollar for exchange of military protection, American military protection. King Faisal said yes, thus giving birth to what we now call the petrodollar. So now that every country that needed oil, right, had to buy dollars in order to make these exchanges, to make these transactions, the world now became slaves to the United States dollar. Central banks
that's exactly what I was saying. You know, that's how these the U.S. made their money. That's how they got, so rich, through exactly what she's explaining. She on point with the history,
We're now forced to hold the United States dollars in reserves. A currency backed by nothing but oil has now successfully created an unlimited demand, global unlimited demand for itself. Now, you see, Iran has sovereign rights over the Strait of Hormuz, okay? They control it and have been controlling it. We are talking about 20% of the world's oil passing through that passing route daily, okay? Daily. And Iran controls that. They control access to that, which is why when the United States and It's Not Real decided that they were going to bomb Iran, they closed off access. They said, you're not getting no oil from the Mideast. So now officially for a month and 4 days, entering its second month, the United States has had no access to oil via the Strait of Hormuz. An action that doesn't just affect the United States' access to oil via the Strait of Hormuz, but it affects 20% of the world's access to oil via the Strait of Hormuz. Hence why you see Donald Trump trying to put pressure on 20% of the world's an action that doesn't just affect the United States' access to oil via the Strait of Hormuz, but it affects 20% of the world's access to oil via the Strait of Hormuz. Hence why you see Donald Trump trying to put pressure on Iran to accept this ceasefire plan that really only benefits the United States, and it's not real. But this is the reason why you see that happening.
Right, and I seen the 15-point plan or the 15-point deal that Iran proposed versus the U.S. 10-point deal, which, they already pretty much said that, it ain't gonna be no deal. So, like the other brother said in the video he did last night, we'll see, if Donald Trump gonna, make good on his word on blowing Iran to smithereens, tonight at around 7 p.m., Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. The world is watching, all right? And she puts it all in a nutshell on why these things are going on, why these things are happening, right? But when you add the spiritual lens of prophecy onto these things, then you understand that this dollar, it ultimately has to be crashed in order for them to incorporate or create the new system, all right? The new system that's backed by, that's going to be led through what? Digital currency, all right?
Because these major global energy leaders are on Donald Trump's ass for this war that he has now started that is affecting the oil market. So for a little over a month, Iran had blocked successfully a lot of Western powers from being able to receive oil via the Strait of Hormuz. But now they have issued out a new policy stating, we will conduct business, we will sell you the oil so long as the transactions are done using the Chinese yuan and not the United States dollar, thus ending a 52-year-long agreement. And as I mentioned before, but I'm going to re-emphasize on, this is the last standing pillar that is upholding the United States financial empire. Without this, the United States crumbles. No longer.
And that's the point. Without that, you're going to see over the course of days, possibly weeks, all right, inflation skyrocket, hyperinflation, over the course of, it ain't gonna take long, man, And this is all being orchestrated by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. You see? But I'm gonna rewind it a little bit and I'm gonna let it play because I got a few precepts in my head, so Lord will, I can get to them. All right.
a lot of Western powers from being able to receive oil via the Strait of Hormuz. But now they have issued out a new policy stating, we will conduct business, we will sell you the oil so long as the transactions are done using the Chinese yuan and not the United States dollar, thus ending a 52-year-long agreement. And as I mentioned before, but I'm going to re-emphasize on, this is the last standing pillar that is upholding the United States financial empire. Without this, the United States crumbles. No longer is this a regular type of war anymore. This is now financial. This is financial war. Why, you ask? Well, because India, China, Japan, and South Korea are the biggest oil importers that pass through the Strait of Hormuz, okay? And just so that you know exactly what I'm talking about, in terms of dollars, Japan holds $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds.
And this is what I was talking about with the Treasury bonds, all right? This is why Donald Trump is tweeting, open the fucking strait, man, all right? In which, you know, this guy, he's lost his mind. You know, because he done jumped, the Lord done made him jump in some hot shit, and now he can't find a way to get out of it, all right? Like I said a few weeks back at camp, you know, this devil, he was so proud, you know, after annihilating Cuba, all right, stealing the president and all, you know, he was so proud that he thought he could do the same thing to Iran. Well, these people have been preparing for this for over 40 years, man, you know? This is why he's saying open the strait or else, you see? Because when these other countries have to start paying Iran in the Chinese yuan, right, you're going to see the dollar collapse totally, okay? When they start dumping the treasury bonds, man, you know? But I'm going to let her tell you how much all of these countries that need to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, all right? She's about to tell you how much they're in, you know, with their bonds for the US of A, okay?
China holds 700 billion. And just so that you know exactly what I'm talking about, in terms of dollars, Japan holds $1 trillion in US Treasury bonds, right?
1 trillion in Treasury bonds, all right? That's not a small number, man.
China holds 700 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. We have India that comes in third at 241.6 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. And then lastly, South Korea with 124.9 billion Treasury bonds. We're talking about almost $3 trillion. $3 trillion. Understand this. With the new policy that Iran has implemented, they would have to sell, drop, get rid of their dollars. And now what? Buy yuan in order to purchase oil because they still need the oil. The moment these nations, these four nations, drop the US dollar, they dump the US dollar in exchange for yuan to buy oil, it's over for the United States. It's over for the United States. That right there is the beginning of the end to the domination of the United States financial empire. It's over after that. Fun fact, we're already in debt. The United States government, the United States economy, we're already in debt. Have been in debt. Been in debt. Stayed in debt. Okay? Another fun fact. You see how highly funded the United States military is? Yeah, the United States government pays more in debt interest than it does on annual military funding. Yeah. The United States debt trap is finally closing in. It's finally closing in. Did you know, as a United States citizen, that the United States government has to refinance $8 to $9 trillion worth of debt this year? This year they got to do that? So now, if interest rates rise...
Right, and like the scriptures say, that he's laid himself, all right, with thick clay, you know? Let's get that in Habakkuk, man. Like I said, I didn't have any precepts down, you know, we just gonna go through the spirit. All right. This Habakkuk chapter 2, and I'll just get the point in verse 6. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe unto him that increaseth that which is not his? How long unto him that laded himself with thick clay? All right, let's go to the blue letter. All right, so we can get the the word Dick Clay, all right? Heavy debts, man, all right? And this devil has laden himself with heavy debts by the way the elites have set up America, all right, as a petrodollar to these other nations, all right? Having these nations invest in so much money, all right? But now you can't even pay your own tab, man, you know? But this the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Why does it look like this? Salakia. It's a demon, man. Come on, man. That's Satan, bro. Bro, I just looked at. Come on, man. Last night it was just fine. That's crazy, bro. I don't even. Oh man, I can't even fucking fix it. Salakia. What is that? Verse 5. Go to verse 6. All right. It says, "But soon their captors will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, 'What sorrow awaits you, thieves? Now you will get what you deserve. You've become rich by extortion.'" Oh man. But how much longer can this go on? All right. When you see this whole thing, all right, going down with Iran and the US, all right, behind the Strait of Hormuz, all right, you see the words that, DJ Donald Trump is losing his mind. All right, Nero 47 is losing his goddamn mind, right? Because he knows that this dollar is going to crash. All right. If these things fall through, let's say over the course of a month, right? Could you imagine the state that the U.S. of A is going to be in? But I wanted to get that word, Dick Clay, and I'll get out of this blue letter, man. It's kind of crazy. All right, him that laded himself with Dick Clay, all right, which is
Strong's H 5671, Avtit.
All right, which in the Hebrew, it's a batyat. All right, it says weight of pledges are heavy debts, man. You see, so the United States is 35 trillion, in a hole and ticking, man. 35 trillion in a hole and ticking. Let me see if I close it out and pull it back up. Would it do it again? That's crazy, bro. Because I wanted to get this Ezekiel 7 and 19 in the NLT. All right, because we're actually going to see the money. All right, $100 bills just rolling down the street. All for the cause of what? Trying to initiate, install the digital currency, man. This is all for the sake, all right, to establish the MOTB. But if you're not up to par, right, or up on game on these different type of things and how they're going to bring the system, all right, that day is going to catch you as a thief, man. But it's Ezekiel 7 and 19 in the KJV. This is crazy, bro. Let me see something. That's crazy. A demon, like I said. It says, "They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity." All right, I read it in the NLT. It says, "They will throw their money in the streets and tossing it out like worthless trash." All right. Why? Because you're going to have, like it says in Revelation, a measure of wheat for a penny. All right. A measure of barley for a penny. You're going to see these stores, all right, gas prices go up $10, $12 a gallon, man. All right. You're going to see a loaf of bread, $25, At that point, like it says in the 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, the course of the action is going to stand in their power, What are you going to do what do you think men are going to do when their families are starving? Jake going to work for a day's work, a day's worth of wages. Say you make $35 an hour. You know, you work 8 hours. What's that? 70 times, what's that? 4. Say, baby, what? 280, 300. You know, my math is off. You know, I ain't trying to think about math right now. All right, but say you make $350 a day, right? You go and spend that in the store to get gas, bread, and a couple, maybe 2 or 3 other items. That's not going to be enough to feed your family, man. You see? So it's going to get to a point to where people are just going to cash. It ain't going to be no point in using money. All right? Because why? This devil wants to cause chaos. All right? To bring what? Order. Order ab chaos. All right? He wants to cause the chaos to bring a new order. All right? And he's going to make everything digital. Social credit systems. All right? A CHIP. He wants to monitor, track, and trace what you eat, what you do in a day. All right? That's why you had this devil Elon Musk talking about the UBI. Okay? They're going to have the systems in place, the robots, right, to take, you know, the AI and certain things to take away certain jobs. It's not going to have enough jobs out there for you to go out there and get it, you know, to make money to actually live day by day. You see? But it says, tossing it out like worthless trash, that silver and gold won't save them on that day of the Lord's anger. It will neither satisfy nor feed them. You see that? So it don't matter how much money you got, all right? How much money you got, how much food you got stored up. You know, the Lord can have it go down, or well, you ain't at your house when things go down, you know? It says, nor feed them, nor for their greed can only trip them up, you know? But that's it on that, all right? So we're going to go to Zephaniah, all right? Because this system, as you know it, all right, as the prophecy says, there's going to be a crashing from the hills, all right? Which represents the total collapse of the stock market, you know? And that's why you got Nero 47 that's very strategic with what he says and when, right? He might say something, you know, when the stock market closes, right? He might say something after it opens, you know? All his attacks that he does are usually on a weekend, you know, when the stock is closed. But we prophesy that it's going to come to a point to where this thing is just totally going to crash. You see? So this Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 10, it says, and it shall come to pass in the day, said the Lord Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. You see? And when you look at the graphs, all right, the actual charts that the stock market's on, you know, you look at the Dow, the NASDAQ, right? When you look at these different things, it shows lines going up, lines going down, you know, arrows up, arrows down, green, red, you know. Well, it says it's going to be a crashing from the hills. And they actually, you know, by them going up and down, all right, on that graph, it looks like a hill. Well, it's tell you that hill is going to crash, meaning what? It's just going to go straight down to the point to where it can't go down no more, all right? This society is going to flatline, man. You know how someone's on a machine, you know, in the hospital, you hear the beep, you know, you can see the line go up, you know, every time the heart beat, and when it stopped beating, right, it just go doo. Why? Because it has crashed. The heart has crashed, all right? And that's what we're going to see here in America. We're going to see the heart of this place crashed, all right? As it says in Jeremiah, all right, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. Well, the Lord is finished with Babylon, man. You know, he's only guiding them to do what? Fulfill prophecy, all right? And that this place may be destroyed now. You see? So this is we're gonna get let me go back to that Zephaniah, because I got a few things I want to grab out of there. All right. Mac testing different things. It's Jeremiah 51 and 7. I'll start at 6. It says, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity. For this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. You see? And we are seeing the Lord render unto Babylon that recompense, man. Right? We are looking at the beginning stages of it. And this place is only going to wax worse and worse and worse. All right? Call Allah Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It says, verse 7, it says, Babylon hath. All right? Hath is a past tense word. This place has been, the Lord has done, hey man, you know how you use something, right? Your hands might be dirty. You might, dust your hands off. The Lord done dust his hands off with this place, man. You see? There's nothing else left for him to do here. All right? Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. All these nations invested in Babylon, you see? In their democracies, in the philosophies, the ways of America, man. All right? The nations have drunk enough of wine, therefore the nations are mad. You see? And you got these nations like South Korea, where Trump is, basically done pulled troops out of there, to pull them for the Iran thing. He got over 40,000 troops in Japan. You see? And ultimately, he's going to pull them out of there as well. All right? Why? Because as the prophecy says, that all these nations will be brought down to Yahweh Shabbat. All right? The valley of Yahweh's judgment, man. You see? Because he's going to plead with them there. All right? Now it says, verse 8, it says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. You see? If so she may be healed. If. All right? But it tell you, verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reaching unto the heaven, and is even lifted up into the skies. Right? And that's what these other nations are doing. You have for the first time in U.S. history, I believe, you have more people that's actually moving out of America than moving in. You see? And when it says in verse 6, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but when it says flee out of the midst of Babylon, it's talking about spiritually, man. All right? Especially for you Israelites that truly believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It's saying flee from Babylon spiritually. All right? Not get on a plane and go to Africa. No. I tell you that in Isaiah the 52nd chapter. You shall not go out by flight. All right? We just got to endure and pray that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai keep us and ultimately save us, man. But let me see what else this chick got to say, so I can close out. That's pretty much the point.
Even just a slightest bit, the United States is looking at paying annually $1 trillion in interests. $1 trillion annually in interest alone. The only solution was to print more dollar bills. Print more dollar bills. The world buys those dollars, uses it to purchase oil. Now Iran said, fuck you. After 52 years, Donald Trump ended an agreement that has literally been keeping the United States economy, financial empire afloat. It's over now. It's over.
Oh, real quick. I got to get it. Because she said something. All right. And it sparked a precept. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. All right? And who are the keepers of the house? All right? Who manages the house? The economists, man. All right? The people that give you these predictions. All right? And these things start with who? With the commander-in-chief, and what is he doing in the office? All right, they base their outlook off of things like that. What's the inflation rate in the economy? Can we cut the interest rates? These are all a part of that. And these people have not cut the interest rates. Another lie, all right, that you people fell for with DJT. that he's going to bring things back to affordable housing and affordable cars, all right? It said an average rate, monthly rate of buying a new car is like almost $800, man. Who the hell can afford that? Then you got to buy groceries and pay, you know, rent, mortgage, whatever, you know, other light bills, water bills, you know. Jake ain't got it like that, you know. But these people are trembling, telling you that the outlook for this place is dark, all right? The outlook for this place is grim. You see? It says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of grinding is low. Why? Because it ain't going to be no work. You see? But let this finish out. All right. Like I said, she on point, man.
Over now. There is no solution now. Because as I stated before, the only solution that the United States government had was print more dollars. World buys.
And even that, when you print more money, the value of the money goes down. You see? Like the prophecy said, like the Lord said, right? Hey, man, a snare has been laid for you, Esau, Edom. You know? The rulers of this world, hey, a snare has been laid for you. You know?
Print more dollars. World buys. The world always had a reason to buy because they needed oil. Iran just gave them a reason to no longer need a reason to buy. And gave them the ultimate reason. It's over.
A sound of battle is in the land. Jeremiah chapter 50 and 22. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? You see? And this is what we're witnessing, all right? One more, real quick. I got one more. I need to end it off, you know, because it's a beautiful thing, you know, to actually see the fall of our enemies, man. All right? It's a beautiful thing, you know. Like I said, call her Lord, like Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachak Wadash, man. All right? This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 7. It says, there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and in the 10th I will utter with my tongue, a man that had the joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. All right. So with that, you know, call her Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rachak Wadash, and double honors once again to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, Rabarakim, Allah Shalom.